Good morning. Welcome to SEC Basketball Reaction at Southeastern 16. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr. We've got 4 games from Wednesday night. It was a mostly exciting night in the SEC, maybe not so much for Auburn, which was a 106-76 winner over Ole Miss. Elsewhere, we had Vanderbilt going to Texas A&M and upsetting the Aggies and perhaps cementing an NCAA tournament bid. We had Otega Oweh in a huge performance, taking down Oklahoma 83-82 in a late-nighter. Also in a late-night overtime game, Arkansas survives Trey Johnson and Texas for an 86-81 win. Per our custom on the show, I start the entry pass to Max Barr on the elbow. Take us away, Max. Where are we going first?
Well, the chat is here bright and early. It was an early start today, and looks like Big Blue Nation is saying, how come you couldn't have started even earlier? This is the greatest, this is the best morning in a while. What an absolute, just a thriller of a game. Fantastic game. I think I started our preview. The initial analysis was points. I think we got our entertainment value here on this one, guys. 82-83. Otega Oweh, one of the most intense games just in terms of every single play, getting a little jaw in, get a little shoulder check in, staring each other down. You can't guard me. No, you can't guard me. Oh, what it was one of my favorite games of the year so far, that game right there. What a game.
Well, Max, in the prediction video, we always try to figure out whose game's it going to be. And I told you, I said, this is the Otega Oweh game. Let's all be honest with ourselves. Come on. This guy's playing his former team. Huge game on the road. We didn't know how shorthanded Kentucky would be. And then this guy comes out and says, you know what? It's not just the Otega Oweh game. It's the Otega Oweh legacy game. Like, this is the career-defining moment against his former team, and was just tremendous. I mean, this guy, we've said all year long, I mean, with the injuries and everything like that this team's had, he's been the most consistent presence on this team. He's kept them right here, kind of in this spot where they're able to win these big games like this. And, I mean, that was one of the best performances I've seen all year, period, just in terms of what he did to take over that game. Now, Trey Johnson, about 10, 15 minutes later, decided that he wanted to do the same thing. But, still, I mean, all things considered, I mean, just go back. Kentucky fans will be going back and watching that stretch of Otega Oweh for years to come in that particular one right there. So,
just fantastic stuff. You can't write a script like this, Blake. We've been saying all year, like, this season could be put into a movie. That game right there last night, just that game, could be put into a movie with all the different storylines. Moser and Pope just coaching their you-know-what's off. How about some of those late possession plays by Pope with who was it? It was Oweh, but it was I think it was Amari Williams with like the screen, and then Kobe Bryant with the pin down. What a play call. The Oklahoma, I think it was Glenn Taylor, number 35, got confused on the switch and let someone under the basket wide open. That was just – it was a great game, but you come away, and we're going to talk about Kentucky for the most of this. But initially I was like, oh my gosh, just a stab in the heart of Sooners fans, because they keep popping up that graphic. You win, you have a 70% chance of getting in. You lose, it's below 50, and they just keep bringing it up. Season's on the line. Otega Oweh, like, behind his head, breaks the hearts of the Sooners fans, guys.
Here's a question.
Go ahead.
Real quick. How many Kentucky fans actually saw the first half of the game? If you're in the chat, how many of you actually were able to see the first half? Because it didn't start until, at least on the actual broadcast, until about 6 or 7 minutes left in the first half of that game.
Well, to answer a Max Barr question for earlier, we didn't start this early because Vandy, Oklahoma just finished at 8:15 this morning.
A&M.
I mean, yeah, but excuse me, A&M. I was up so late watching games, I can't even remember who played anybody anymore. But back to Kentucky. Oweh scored what, 21 of their last 23. The degree of difficulty on that last shot was probably an 8 out of 10. He kind of, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody hit a shot quite like that. And then I thought there was going to be a brawl at the end or after the end. I mean, that was maybe the biggest gut punch game of the year because Oklahoma really needed it, was right there, couldn't get it, and then the guy that beat you was a guy wearing your uniform last year, and then you had a lot of talking at the end. I mean, that just was that one had drama all over it at the end and beyond.
You want to talk about a team in Oklahoma right now that's clearly on the outside looking in now, and you go back, there's 3 different home games. It was the home game on January 8th when A&M didn't have Wade Taylor, and it was Zurich Phelps had the game of his life, had 34 points, and I think it was Manny Obaseki that hit the buzzer beater. A&M wins by 2, so Oklahoma misses that opportunity. Just 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, Oklahoma just complete collapse at home against LSU. Cam Carter has like 5 or 6 points by himself within a span of like 15 seconds, and they lose that one. And then last night, dropping the last possession to Kentucky. That's 3 games all at home by a total of 1, 4, 6 points total, and you're 0-3 in those games. Now you're on the outside looking in. Just brutal. Brutal.
Yeah, the game last night is the kind of game that, depending on how Oklahoma's season finishes here, we already said the fan base was getting a little restless, I think. Yeah, that may be one we look back on and are like, yeah, that was kind of the one that broke everything. Because like we said, I mean, they've still got to play at Ole Miss and at Texas. They get a home game against Missouri, which at this point, I think every game's a must-win for Oklahoma. But, yeah, so we'll see. I mean, you don't get rewarded for close losses when you're a team that's right there on the bubble. So, I think their season is pretty much set now. Like, I think they need to win out. You know, maybe they get to 6 and win a couple in the SEC tournament, and that's fine. But I just think they got to win some games here. But, yeah, because, I mean, it's not just that. It's not just the game last night, right? You're looking at the whole picture here, and they've now lost 6 of their last 7 as a team that was kind of on the bubble, and that's just not a place you want to be right now. But, yeah, so, I mean, from that standpoint, we kept saying, I know people are like, oh, the SEC is still going to get 14. It's just not happening. Like, these are teams that are playing their way out, and Oklahoma's sitting there. I think they're right there around Georgia's spot now, maybe, potentially. We'll see. I mean, it's a 1-point loss. The metrics actually moved them up, I think, in the net this morning, so not surprised there. But, yeah, so that's where Oklahoma sits. I mean, for Kentucky, it's just another example of, I mean, people kept asking, why is Kentucky a 3 seed? Why is Kentucky even in this conversation? Well, it's just because games like this, you know, it's a road win, another, you know, quad 1 opportunity for Kentucky, and they win the game. And so that's just how they keep stacking these kind of wins. And as we said, they've already got a lot of good wins elsewhere. So, yeah. But
how about Lamont Butler last night, playing with the wrap on his shoulder, fouls out, 20 minutes, had 5 assists, 6 assists, scores 7 points. His return and just getting anything out of him, and they got more than something. He played well. Big for the Cats if they can keep him healthy.
Yeah, what was did we get anything post-game on Jackson Robinson? Because he only played the 12 minutes and then had the ice wrap on the hand. But I guess you're happy he's out there. I thought that, honestly, it wasn't going to get talked about much, but I thought that Kobe Brea doing the little things, and he keeps doing them. You think about Kobe Brea in the non-conference, what his role was compared to what it is now. I mean, now he's getting into the lane. He's got a nice shot fake, making some mid-range shots, some drives all the way to the 10. I think he had the most rebounds for Kentucky. Yeah, led Kentucky with 7 rebounds, 6 defensive. They only let Oklahoma grab 7 offensive rebounds, something that Oklahoma usually tries to really hit the glass with Godwin. So I thought, because we're going to talk about Butler, we're going to talk about Oweh, all these guys, but Brea doing the little things that he's not normally known for, I was really impressed with his effort last night.
Here's an interesting stat. So they win that game last night, and they did it with their lowest, tied for their lowest 3-point total in a win all season. Their lowest 3-point total in the SEC play this season. 7 of 23. So, that's what we always say about Kentucky. I feel like it always turns to that, right? It's like, well, they're going to come out, they're a top 25 shooting team from 3. That's how they're going to beat you, right? That's how it's going to happen. But last night, hey, they only hit 7 and they shoot 63% from inside the arc. And yeah, I'm looking at their totals here. They had 7 against Georgia State. They had 7 against the Zags. In every other game they've won this season, they've hit 8 or more. So, yeah. So that's good to get a win like that on the road in that fashion. But again, it was just attack mode. It was just Otega away, attack, and Oklahoma couldn't do much to stop them. So.
To answer your question, Max, of course, Robinson missed the last 4 games with a wrist injury. Here's a Mark Pope quote on that after the game last night. Jax's wrist just didn't respond great tonight, so we'll see how that is going forward. I think, and then he talks about Andrew Carr. I think Andrew's doing okay. I think he's okay. I think Lamanna's okay. We'll see. For us moving forward, it's always the morning after that we're going to know a lot more.
Man. Yeah, well, hey, guys dipping in and out of the lineup. I think I texted. It was Blake. I wish I could pull up our. I wish I had an Apple Mac so I could pull up our text conversation, because I think the text was something like along the lines of, so you're telling me that Kentucky is about a 2 to 3 point favorite. They're heavily about 70 to 85% of the public is on them as a short road favorite. And they're going to be playing with a lineup that hasn't seen the floor together with continuity, and who knows when the last time all these guys have been out there together. Against a team playing with their entire season on the line pretty much. It almost sounds like Oklahoma +3 will be getting some action. So going into the game, I'm thinking, oh, man, this is just a tough spot for Kentucky here. Why is the whole world thinking they're going to win here when it's looking like close to a 50-50 game? Well, I don't think Vegas knew Otega Oweh was going to do what he did. Just puts the team on his back, and that's what we've been saying with Kentucky all year, right? You don't know what to expect, but you can just expect someone's going to do it. They're going to have one guy that's going to go off. Remember a few weeks ago, it was always the Ansley-Almanor game? He's barely getting out there right now. And then it was the Trent Noah game. Has any team had more of a guy have a game than Kentucky this year? I feel like the whole lineup has taken a turn having their huge game in a big time win.
Yep, and they got a lot of them. They're now tied for 3rd in the country in most quad 1 wins. They're right there in that group with Oregon, Tennessee, Michigan State. They all have 9. So, yeah, that's what we keep saying about Kentucky's overall body of work. That just added to it in terms of getting another quad 1 win. You go on the road, beat an Oklahoma. So, yeah, that's it. So, it's an impressive performance, like we said. Oweh just completely takes over the game, but the better news for Kentucky is hopefully, you've got Butler for a little bit more, you got Robinson for a little bit more, but you take it game by game at this point. You never expect anything with the actual Kentucky lineup right now. I think you just wait game by game and see who's going to be available and go from there. So,
one quick just thought here to put a pin on this. I am now more excited for in-conference transfers. Think of the great intensity, storylines, pregame hype, in-game chatter, and tensions and just emotion flaring up between all the in-conference transfers where they play their old team. Before, I know it's usually more frowned upon, or people don't think it's right, but I love it. It just makes for a great game the next year. I'm here for it.
We got, let's see, that list would be Josh Gray, Jonas Adu, Aiden Holloway, Oweh. I know that can't be it, right?
Those are the ones that came to mind.
Yeah. Who's that? Oh, Blake, who did you say?
Jordan Butler.
Yeah, Jordan Butler.
But even you laugh, that's still a storyline, right?
Sure.
As little as he plays, the students know the intensity's there. They're booing him, or they're, whatever. People are tweeting about it. It makes for, as intense as the league already is. Riley Kugel.
Tyron Lawrence.
Melendez.
Von Martin.
Yeah.
It makes for a great game.
Gosh, thinking about that now, I never would have thought there'd been a day where we've seen this many.
Big Baller Brett campaigning right now. You better donate to the NIL fund, Big Baller Brett.
Yeah. I never thought we'd see a day where we'd have so many interleague transfers. That's wild.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I got a bone to pick with you guys, okay? We start the show here, and I know we got a lot of Kentucky fans in the crowd. I get it. But, boy, let me tell you, I remember a time not that long ago when people were out there trying to convince me, Max Barr, and others, those Auburn Tigers, they're slipping, boys. They only won by 7 at home. They only won by 12 at home. The Tigers are done for. Oh, no. What's going to happen? The season down the drain. $5 super chat from Kim here. Seems like the goalposts just keep moving for the Auburn Tigers. Yesterday, it was all Alabama. I was talking about Bama yesterday. Fanta was doubting them. Come on, John Fanta. What are you doing? A response from the Tigers. We appreciate the super chat, Kim. Let me pull up this other one here. Are the Auburn Tigers back to normal yet? Are they back to normal?
There's no normal for Auburn.
Oh, man.
You're fighting on a plane.
Back to normal for the Tigers. Are they back yet? Auburn gets a 30-point win over Ole Miss. And yes, as I updated, a lot of the Auburn fans jumped on my tweet last night about me asking, will Auburn's 30-point win over the number 25 team in the net and having 9 more quad 1 wins, they're up to 15 now, by the way, mean more than Duke's 37-point win over the number 225 team in the net, which moved Duke up to number 1 in the net rankings yesterday. It did mean more. It just means more to the Tigers, as they're now number 1 in the net again, because that's all that matters, right? So
I feel like he was sitting on that, Max.
A dominant win. Trey,
had it stored up and loaded and ready to
Trey,
go.
Come on now. Who's been saying that? Can't tell if I'm being sarcastic? Come on, Trey. Come on. They're all saying it. Are they?
Some were. John Fanta was.
No, Fanta wasn't the one saying it.
Fanta backed him up.
Field of 68 was dogging him for it this morning.
Fanta was the one doubting Auburn? I thought Fanta was the one who was pushing back on it.
No, that's what I mean. I was listening to Goodman last night or this morning or whenever. They were calling him out as the guy.
I thought it was someone else.
Well, anyway.
I thought the clip was Doster saying
That's
that
what I
Auburn
thought.
come back to earth a little bit, and then Fanta goes, they're 25-2.
Yeah,
somebody
that was the
doubted
clip.
Auburn.
Come on, don't screw up. You kidding me? They're 25-2.
I'm not here. I'm not accepting no Fanta slander. No Fanta slander. I love Fanta.
Hey,
but
go ahead, Max.
Here's a quick question. What do you think the last 2 times Ole Miss has gone to Neville? Just the last 80 minutes of basketball for the Rebels in Neville Arena. How much do you think they've lost by in the last 80 minutes at Neville for the Rebels? They've lost by 53. Okay, last year they lost by 23. This year they lost by 30. Blake, you like to pull on some series history sometimes.
Yeah.
I got a feeling next year when we're previewing Auburn Ole Miss at Neville, I don't even need to do an analysis. I got my pick already for next year. I'm taking Auburn. But joking aside, we both picked them. I thought it was, I think it's just a bad matchup. Ole Miss is dead last in the league in rebounding margin. And you're going to give the number one offense in the nation 10 offensive rebounds to have even more opportunities. A recipe for disaster. They never led for a second, did Ole Miss, never got their feet in. And just Auburn shoots 52% from three at home. I don't know how many teams are beating them when they're shooting north of 50 at home.
Two things on Auburn. We talked about just the unbelievable offensive performances in this league. Right now, unless it's switched overnight, Ken Pom has 5 of the top 6 teams in the NCAA in adjusted offensive efficiency as SEC teams. So your bar for elite offensive performance is pretty high. And we talked about, what was it, 2 nights ago, I think Alabama had an unbelievable performance, scored 111 on Mississippi State. They weren't even the most points per possession in the SEC that night because Missouri beat them by about that much. Guess what? Auburn topped everybody last night, I think. I don't think anybody in the league has had a higher point per possession total than Auburn's 1.49 last night. That's incredible. Number 2, in all seriousness, when you are this elite, people are looking for something to pick a flaw as a thing that might take you down. Because when we get to March and we're almost there, you're looking forward to the tournament. What is it that is something that can, be your death knell, be your kryptonite once we get to the NCAA tournament? And we look for those things. We watch these teams a lot. I just keep looking for something with this team, and really the only thing we can come up with is, do they lose their cool? Do they get a technical? Do they have something like happened to them against Yale last year? Sorry to bring it up, but that's like where we are with this team, right? Is there anything else that you can even think of? And that is amazing. When you were as high profile a team as Auburn is, and you play so many great games against, I mean, they played 17 quad one games, guys. When you get to this point of the season and you haven't had a spell where they struggled for this, and keep in mind, they've had the potential National Player of the Year playing less than healthy probably for a while, missed some time. I just think it is amazing to me that as much as we all keep trying to find something wrong with Auburn, because that's what we do, that there's not more that we've got to sink our teeth into at this point of the year.
Well, the thing I've got, because we're going to talk about how great they are for a while. The only thing that I had for this game that I was like, okay, this would qualify in the negative category if we had to, was Cardwell is now back-to-back games, 4 fouls. The Alabama game fouled out in 12 minutes. So you see on the Evan Mia sites the Bart Torvik plus minus. Cardwell is really important for this team. Now, Chaney Johnson is incredible, and he steps up and does what he can. However, if you're trying to just look for like this could come back to bite him in March, that's more than just like, okay, they don't get technicals or anything like that, anything outside of the ordinary, I would say is the foul trouble. Yeah. I could see them running into a team that's hyper aggressive and Cardwell's in foul trouble, and it changes things up a little bit. And that's the only thing I can have. However, a bunch of positives here. Tahad Pettiford, we always talk about his scoring. He's hitting this shot, Mr. Big Shot, this and that. How about 6 assists, only 1 turnover against an Ole Miss team that's just nasty at trying to just make life difficult for whoever the creator is. So I loved the game from Pettiford. He's not always just looking to be that microwave heat check scorer, also creating. And then I already mentioned Chaney Johnson, because I'm sure we'll talk about the starting group. But Chaney Johnson off the bench, 13 points, 6 rebounds. Just thought he was fantastic when Cardwell got into foul trouble.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's just not a lot to pick apart. And that's why we were joking a minute ago about, and there were some people who just, that's what happens this time of year. When it's like, okay, what can we do to try to pick apart things with this team. And that's why Max and I have been laughing the last couple of days. We're laughing at different tweets. We're like, what are these people talking about? Like, this is a team that we've reached this level. They've been this good all year long to where we're just trying to come up with ideas to have something to talk about when there's really just not a lot. You know, we mentioned the foul numbers, all that kind of stuff, as you just talked about with Cardwell and such. Maybe, right? In the wrong matchup, that could be something that comes back to bite them. Absolutely. You know, you could see a team like Florida who just completely comes out and just takes it to you because Florida has that type of upside that not a lot of other teams have. That's why they're one of the national title favorites at this point, even after the loss against Georgia. So I think that's kind of what it comes down to. But as Thorpe noted here, by the way, Thorpe, I know you said I missed the super chat. Sometimes we just, they roll through here. We'll get to them all, I promise. We've got a lot of super chats still to get to. That game was the second worst thing to happen to Ole Miss this week. Oh, my. I think we know what Thorpe's talking about. Yep. WD finally playing 100% again, better than a 40-point win over a 6-win Miami. Yeah. The net decided it wanted to get a little controversial, as we said. But that changed with Auburn moving back to number 1 there. But, I mean, again, that's kind of, you know, where we are at this point with them. 15 quad 1 wins. They're 15-2 in quad 1. Alabama's second. I think they're 10-5, something like that in quad 1. Just a remarkable number when you really think about it. So, I mean, what else do we add here? Is a 30-point win. Auburn is just it's kind of an interesting response, as we said. And now, what a finish to the season, right? At Kentucky on Saturday, at A&M next Tuesday, home against Alabama. I mean, these are all must-see TV. As long as you adjust the TV window for 3 hours for that second game, then they're all must-see for the Tigers the rest of the way because these are going to be fantastic games. Again, let's see what Kentucky does on Saturday, coming off a big win. Now they get the Tigers at Rupp. Who knows with A&M? You know, aside from the fact that we know the game's going to go 3 hours, I mean, they're kind of in a spot now where they got to figure some things out. So will they be desperate? Because remember, A&M plays Florida on Saturday. So could they have another loss? Then what happens next, right? And then the rematch against the Tide the following Saturday. So a fun finish here for the Tigers.
Next.
Well, he's just really just moving on quick from the Tigers here. Maybe it's Chris Lee is the one who's the Auburn
Chris.
Tigers. Maybe we figured it out here.
Okay, Carry on.
Wow. Chris is like, let's just move on from the number 1 team in the country, 26-2, 15 quad 1 wins. Get them out of here.
They're
by the way,
they win all the time. There's nothing to talk about.
Well. 199 super chat. Want Max to go ahead and pick Auburn on Saturday right now. So,
Not going to give anything away, but I do have some obligations that I have to make sure I stick with in that game.
Yeah, we haven't recorded our predictions yet. We're going to do that afterwards. So, again, super chat money, bribes are welcome if you would like us to pick your team or pick against your team. Yeah, we'll see how it decides to work on that. We're still deciding on the watch party game, the watch along. We've got to get Max Barr to 100%, and so we will see. Max this is his Michael Jordan flu game, the Chad Baker-Mazara flu game.
Whatever Chad hit me too.
Max is a little down for the count right now, so we're gonna make sure Max is good to go. We don't want to put. I mean, we're gonna be doing at least 3 reaction streams on Saturday, not counting the watch along. So we're gonna make sure Max is up to 100%. So we'll get to that. All right. My goodness, where do we even go next? Let's get to a couple of super chats here. We got to catch up, and then we will get to everything else. All right. Alex, 199. Mark Pope's out there cussing. The Kentucky Wildcats are winning the whole thing. That may be true. Yeah, Mark Pope caught on the hot mic. So, by the way, Alex also said he wants the kiss of death against the Cats. So, he wants us all on the Auburn Tigers on Saturday. We'll find out. Alex. Again, bribes are still welcome. We've not recorded yet. Joshua, $20 super chat. Got to give a very special shout out to Big Blue Nation for talking smack about Cal and Arkansas. It's pushed the team to a whole new level. Thank you again. Love you so much. That's very kind. Very kind, Joshua. Always appreciate the fun back and forth nature here. So yes, it's like the Kentucky-Arkansas rivalry here has reached levels of Big Gator EJ versus Donovan. It's just a new kind of level here when it comes to that. So, all right, let's get to the Hawks. And I know Vanderbilt fans, I know you're feeling left out, but don't worry, we're saving the best for last with the Commodores. Let's talk about the Hogs real quick, though. Even Nate's like, you know what? I'm an Arkansas fan. Props to Trey Johnson.
Gosh, that was
an absolute monster performance from Trey Johnson last night as he just completely went off. I mean, again, we talked about Oweh taking over the game for Kentucky. Trey Johnson takes over the game for Texas, but it is the Hogs, 86-81 in overtime, getting the win. Trey Johnson did finish with 39. Not enough, though, as the Fighting John Calipari's get another crucial win in their bubble march. Meanwhile, that loss for Texas, not a bad loss, but again, when you play these kind of games, you really need to win them, especially for the Longhorns who just came off that loss to South Carolina, Max.
Didn't Trey Johnson break the freshman record? Broke KD's? I think KD had 37 right. Texas' freshman record.
He did.
So Trey Johnson breaks that. 3 straight games with 29, at least 29 points for Trey Johnson. He's the leading scorer in the best conference ever. So if you want some context there, as a freshman too, in a senior's game right now, as a freshman leading scorer.
What he scored, I think he scored all 12 of their points in overtime. And I'm watching Arkansas. I don't remember if they were in some kind of a zone or just the spacing on the floor, but like they were chasing him basically with 2 guys and kind of a third trail defender just kind of lurking behind, and he was still getting points. And it was almost like at one point they gave him an easy layup. It was almost like, all right, we'll give him 2. We just don't want him to get 3. It was now it finally caught up to Texas at the end, but that was just and Arkansas, as we know, can defend. But watching him go at it and just see, can he pull this off almost by himself was amazing.
Yeah, for Arkansas though, they needed that win without the heart and soul of what they have leaned on to get to this point here. The defense, the toughness, the free throws. They didn't have their guy, Adu Thero. They don't have Boogie Fland. They've got multiple guys playing 40-plus minutes. Doesn't matter. All 5 starters, completely balanced effort. Everyone between 12 and 18 points. They don't take many threes. Don't need to take too many threes, Blake. 52.9% from outside for the Hogs. Don't let the Hogs get hot. Don't let them get hot. Come on now.
If Arkansas would shoot 17 threes every game, that'd be tremendous. Because if they can be that efficient, I mean, like we said, that's the way it works with this team. And they've got to be in attack mode because I think that's their best path to winning, right? It's not through having to shoot 33s or anything like that. It's being a team that can use, I mean, the speed that they have, the size, the athleticism, like that's where like these guards just being able to make the plays that they can. And so I think, yeah, but like Big Z too. I mean, we've talked a lot about him, but like I put out the box plus minus yesterday, conference only games. Big Z is in the top. Let me pull it up here. Where was he at? He is 4th in the SEC in conference play. Like, that's how good this guy's been. And I think it's just one of those where, remember, we came into the year, we're like, all right, we saw the potential last year. What's it going to look like now, right? Like, how does he take that step forward? Is it going to happen? Is he going to be as good as we think he can be? And I think, from that standpoint, like, look at what he's done and the role he's played in the turnaround for this team. I mean, we talk about Davis, sure. Like, we've said all year long, Max, like, he's the guy that probably, if they're ever going to actually figure it out when they were struggling, it was probably going to have to be him because you would just, we had projected this guy as a first team, second team all SEC guy. And early in the season, you're just like, he cannot find a rhythm. He doesn't seem comfortable in this offense. Maybe it's the injury. All those things we're trying to come up with to figure it out. But yeah, like you see the way these guys are playing together right now. And I mean, man, just look at the ascent of Davis and Big Z and obviously everyone else that's had to step up. And you do it in a game like this without Mr. Consistency in Thero. And it's just like, that means as much as anything, just because you were able to prove you could win a game like this with the guy on the other side who was just having a career night yet again, and yet Arkansas still finds a way to win it. 6-9 in the SEC now, 17-11 overall on the right side of the bubble. Good place to be for the Hogs, who weeks ago had a 4% chance to make the NCAA tournament. Now I'd say that's a bit higher these days.
Quote from not a quote, but the Arkansas account, the basketball account, put out the tweet on Adu Thero. Suffered a hyperextension to his left knee in the Missouri game. He is going to continue to be evaluated. Surgery's not expected. There's no timetable for his return. And then
I hate that one.
Kevin McPherson, Arkansas basketball writer, said the recovery time for mild to moderate hyperextension injuries is 2 to 4 weeks. So which at minimum puts his return right around March 12th, which is when the SEC tournament begins. So he's in a little touch and go situation here. But I texted these guys after we saw that tweet. I said, okay, so that means you get me back next week, ready to go, based on how the injury news in this league goes.
Chris, is Adu Thero out for the season?
You had to ask me, didn't you?
Well, you're the resident doctor.
I'm the resident injury pessimist. Well, look, anytime you hear no timetable, that you got to admit that's got a little ominous feel to it.
Chris hyperextended his knee last week, and he's been up playing tennis all morning.
Yep.
No. It's interesting to watch them because Big Z is such an interesting player. What was the stat last night? He's the only guy in the country to get 50 blocks and 43s. And Blake, I looked it up. He's fifth in the country or fifth in the SEC in defensive box plus minus. I don't know what. I feel like one little tweak I'd make. I don't know that you want him handling the ball sometimes as much as he bounced one off his knee last night in the key spot last night, but just his ability to connect from inside. He can finish inside. He's such a fun player to watch. I mean, he's nowhere, I'm sure, near his ceiling yet, but between that and Carter Knox kind of taking an increased role with all the injuries and stuff, they're kind of interesting to watch offensively where the ball goes at certain times.
Big Z was hurt there at the end, right? He's holding his lower back, kind of.
I think so. Yeah, he had the belt on last night on the bench
for a while, hasn't he? Yeah.
So he's not 100% even. Guys, I don't normally do this, but I think I gotta bring it up. I think I got it. I think we're on hot seat watch here at Texas. I do. I think you take over the job with one of the best teams in the nation 2 years ago. Go to the Elite Eight when you take over that 3 quarters through the season. Last year, you fall back to a 7 seed, round 2 exit. This year, you're falling back even more. Now not even sure if you're going to make the tournament. You got one of the best players in the entire nation giving you 30 almost every game here, and you're just double-digit deficit after double-digit deficit. I think we're on hot seat watch here at Texas.
Didn't somebody report that earlier in the week?
Oh, I don't know. That was just a feeling I had.
Or at least it's been suggested. I don't know if I heard that on Field of 68 or where it came from. It's been a little bit of a talking point. It's not just you thinking about it.
Here's the thing. You have a guy like Trey Johnson, a once in a generation type talent as a freshman, maybe. And if you don't make the NCAA tournament, and you're hosting an NIT game with this guy, that's not what the expectation was. And so I think anytime you get in that kind of scenario, it's a problem. Like, even if they make the tournament, and let's say they wind up in Dayton or something, is that enough? I mean, because here's the thing. Think about this, right? Think about the timing. Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC this year. Who are the two coaches probably on the hottest seat?
Mm-hmm.
It's those two, I would think. No inside knowledge. I just would think that's probably the case. So, I mean, yeah, like I think that's kind of how it works sometimes, and I think you kind of see now what the expectation is, in terms of, can they really get over the hump? And if you have a year like this where you don't get there with Trey Johnson, then there's plenty of people who are going to doubt if you can do it moving forward, because you're not getting a player like that again.
Well, like, I mean, I don't know I want to see what their experience number is at Ken Palm, because it's got to be way up there. Okay, it's 21st. It feels higher than that to me. I mean, Kaluma's played a ton of ball at Kansas State and Creighton. You got the two Indiana State kids who I think they're both seniors. You got Tremont Mark, who's in his 5th year, was a big player at Houston, big player at Arkansas. It's not like Trey Johnson alone is enough to win you a lot of games. But when you've got and look, maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe it's a chemistry issue. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Like when the parts don't add up to more than 16 and 12 or whatever they are this morning, you got to. But I mean, they've got dudes that we have talked about before at other stops, and didn't come off the floor much at a lot of those stops, and played very well. Like, and again, some of it's a reflection on how good the league is. But like, if they decide to move on after this season with all they've got, it feels defensible.
I don't want to stay on this topic for too long, but it's two quick things for me. It's not only is Trey Johnson, Blake, like you said, but it's also, you got Art Kaluma, you got Jordan Pope, you've got the two kids from Indiana State last year, Larry and Kent, who were on one of the most efficient offenses in the nation. So Jordan Pope, he was like a 20-point per game guy the past 2 years. So it's like everything around Trey Johnson also, combined with the fact that 2 years ago you were a title favorite, just 2 years ago at Texas. If Dylan Dessou doesn't get hurt in March Madness on that Elite Eight run when they lost to Miami, if Dessou doesn't get hurt, you're talking about maybe you're thinking Final Four, maybe championship aspirations for Texas 2 years ago, and now you're talking about missing the tournament. That's why it's just that quick contrast for me. You saw Utah last night. Look at the pressure around Utah. BYU's doing good. Utah State's doing good in Utah. Utah fires their coach like that. It's not cutting it. That's just why it feels like that for me here with Texas.
All right. Let's move on to, now I know, Philip, you didn't miss the A&M Vandy segment.
Here we go.
It's not an afterthought. It's just the nature of, we have a lot of Auburn, Kentucky, and Arkansas fans who were in the chat here early on, so we decided to get to their games. We're not doubting the Commodores, because in all honesty, what do we even say about the game? It's still going on right now. They're still playing. So we're waiting for the game to finish. So we decided to save it for last. You know, we always wait for these games to end. Vanderbilt A&M now going on, what is it? I don't know.
They just hit halftime.
15
Still
hours,
shooting free throws.
15 hours in. So still going on in College Station. As Nate says, we are all doomed when A&M gets the 11 a.m. spot at the SEC tournament. That last game at the tournament that day will start at, I don't even know what time. It'll start after midnight. There's a lot to get to. Vanderbilt gets the upset win, and we got a lot of chats to get to from this game that just came in. But Vanderbilt gets the win, and now there are so many things to talk about in this game, and maybe that is why we saved it for last. I wouldn't be surprised if we go 20-plus minutes here with this particular game itself, which would be fitting. But 86-84, the Commodores get the win. And I think this is just – I can't even get past talking about the actual chaos of the final minutes or 45 minutes of the game. Max, we came into this game talking about how with Vanderbilt, we knew the importance of this game in terms of their NCAA tournament hopes and all that. We knew that A&M was going to get to the free throw line. We felt pretty confident about it. We knew A&M was going to get offensive rebounds. They did both of those things, 39 free throw attempts, 18 offensive rebounds. But we also said, like, I don't remember if we said it, but did we not both were like, hey, this may be that Tyler Nickel type game. This may be a game where Tyler Nickel can go off just because of kind of thinking about how A&M was going to defend you and those things. I don't know, Max. Maybe we were hitting a pretty high percentage last night on the Otega Oweh, the Tyler Nickel. It all kind of came together. But my goodness, what a win for Vanderbilt once they finally got it. And yeah, we'll talk about what it means for the tournament in a second. But
funny story. I actually forgot that I had called the Tyler Nickel game, and I wake up this morning to Barstool Vandy with a clip of me going, "This is going to be a Tyler Nickel game," and I'm like, "Yep." I completely remembered that I said that, and I called it, and I knew it all along. No, but joking aside, that's what we know that with A&M. You look at just last game, Chaz Lanier 8 of 13 from 3, Tyler Nickel 7 of 10 from 3. If you have got a guy that can catch and shoot and release like that, and you've got guards that can penetrate like Tennessee and like Vandy do, that penetrate, kick out, quick release 3. The way Texas A&M's defense is built, you're going to have that look. And so if you've got a guy like that playing A&M and he's on, that's just how it's gonna be. They're gonna give you that. With A&M, I think the Aggies are looking out for me, I think is what's going on here. I am completely discrediting a Vanderbilt win here. This is just the Aggies trying to say, guys, you're getting too high on us nationally. We're going to lose a few games to get the national, attention on us down, and then we're going to go rip off a Final Four run. That's all Buzz is doing. Buzz is just ahead of the game here, guys. That's all this is, right? Right?
Oh, I got some thoughts on that in a minute, but let's give the credit to Vandy first.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I know. But I do have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we've had with Vanderbilt was like, it's just such a flawed roster in a lot of ways. I mean, they have some guys that can do this, but there's big things they can't do at the same time. And one thing that we kind of circled with them was like, they're kind of built to shoot threes and they've got a lot of green lights, but they don't have a guy that really can step up and just knock them down. Well, Tyler Nickel now at 41%. After a little surge recently, and he's gaining confidence. Like some of his misses early in the year were bad. And it feels like now when the ball's in his hands and he's got a good look, it's going in. That's kind of a game changer for them. That is why they won the game last night. And boy, guys, if I'd said to you, they got Jalen, okay, McLaughlin and Carey both got 3 fouls before we hit the 17-minute mark. They both picked up 4 before we hit the 11-minute mark. They got nothing inside behind him. To make it worse, about a minute later, Jason Edwards picks up number 3, mouths at the ref, gets a technical for number 4. So you're like, okay, they got maybe a 4-point lead at that point. I don't remember what it was. And you're going, they got Carey with 4, McLaughlin with 4, Edwards with 4. Maybe they're 3 key players outside Nickel. And they do not have any depth underneath. Like the chances of them winning that game, whatever win probability set at that point, throw that out the window because they don't consider roster composition. Like I just did not see a path for them at that point. And they did it.
Chris, I'm going to be honest. I did see a path, and I'm going to tell you why I saw a path. Because 310th, 326, 269, 265th, A&M's offensive numbers are they are absurd for a 20-win team. I mean, in all honesty, if I put this out on Twitter and let's say we were just randomly going to just pick one team to talk about and no one had any idea who it was going to be, and I put up those numbers and said, name this SEC team without any other context and just put up the offensive numbers, guess how many people would guess South Carolina?
Well,
I mean, honestly,
I
right?
said I had something to say on A&M, you're getting there.
Yeah, like that's what they would guess just based on the percentages. but yet they've done it, right? Because they've been able to, with their defense and the offensive rebounding and those kind of things we talked about, they've managed to put together a pretty good season up until these last 3 games where they have not played well. And so it is like, that's why even in a game like that, and that's where we're going to get to the bigger picture, right? When we're talking about A&M and the tournament and all this other stuff. I mean, it's like, I feel like we said this a couple of days ago, Max, in one of the gut brackets. I'm like, I feel like Vanderbilt's the kind of team that can win a couple games. And this is where Chris and I always joke, but it's like, I see the upside of a Vanderbilt team offensively, and I'm thinking they may go out in these kind of teams. This is the kind of game where if you get this matchup against a team that cannot throw the ball in the ocean sometimes, and you look at Vanderbilt where now all of a sudden, like Chris said, Tyler Nichols getting hot. They've got other guys we know that can score, Edwards and all this other stuff. So, I mean, that's where we start matchups. We're getting to the matchup time of year. And I never, even in that scenario, and Chris is right, you look at the probabilities and everything, like, sure, like A&M, it's probably lots in their favor, but I'm thinking it still as I'm watching it, I'm like, do I really trust Texas A&M to still find a way? Because I don't anymore. I don't trust them at all.
Hey, Blake, everything was on a tee for them to win that game. Vanderbilt had 4 key players with 4 fouls. They had McLaughlin foul out. They kept – I mean, they were in the bonus, 6 minutes left in the first half, and I think maybe earlier than that in the second half. Like, when you can't hit field goals, but they can hit free throws, like, they're at home. Everything – and even Vanderbilt even put one on a tee for that, a breakaway to go up 7 with 6 seconds left, fumble it out of bounds. Like, you could not have asked for a better opportunity to win a game last night than A&M had. Couldn't do it. And here's a question for A&M, and I want to go back to Vandy. Why does C.J. Wilcher not play more? Tell me that. Because he hit some very high degree of difficulty threes last night, and they don't have anybody else on the roster. Maybe you don't want to take Taylor or some of your other guys off the floor. I get it. But come on, man. It's a guard's game. They don't have shooters. You got to get that guy in the game more. Explain that one to me.
I think you're asking us to explain a Buzz Williams coaching decision. I can't give you that. I'm sorry.
I don't got an answer for you. I don't have an answer.
All right, part 2 of that to Blake's Vandy thoughts. I have not been a big – this is a team that's maybe dangerous in the tournament because I just think the roster is too flawed. But I'm starting to come around on them a little bit in that regard, and this is why. First is Nickel. He's been that go-to shooter they lack. Number 2 is Edwards. No, Edwards is got to – he and Hogarth have got to make some better decisions at times with a lot of things. And Jalen Carey's good. Carey and Edwards, well, Carey committed a flagrant last night where he was frustrated and had a right to be. But you can't do that. And Edwards got a technical after getting a 3rd foul that turned, he went from 2 to 4 fouls, in just like that. You cannot have guys that you got to count on that lose their heads at key times. If they get the discipline part of it right, because they don't turn the ball over, they got some pickpocket guards. If you're not on the road where you can't get a whistle and you don't get your interior guys in foul trouble, I see a path for them now that I don't think I saw a week or 2 ago. But it's got to involve a little better discipline than they showed last night. And I get it was frustrating, but you gotta be pragmatic and figure it out.
Max, I'm gonna pull this up from Justin. Yeah, because this last summer you and I were all over Vandy in terms of like they were our sleeper team, and yeah, I think it's this combination. It's guys being able to make shots, especially like a Tyler Nickel from outside. I think it's knowing that you have, again, someone coming in like Edwards. We always knew the question was going to be the front court. Like that was our question. We're like, okay, we think the upside's there, but the size, blah, 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 all this other stuff we mentioned. So, yeah, this is kind of the way it's playing out. The offensive upside to me, yes, this was probably why we were calling them the sleeper team last summer.
Yeah, well, we were right, but with the reasoning slightly wrong. I didn't know Tyler Tanner was going to be, by the end of the season, basically your starting point guard. And if you watch that game, for the most part, besides the last hour that lasted forever, Tyler Tanner, I mean, he's being guarded by Zurich Phelps, by Wade Taylor, guys with some of the highest steal rates in the country, just all over him, and he's got the ball on a string. I mean, a lot of pressure on him, a lot of ball pressure, double teams, kickouts to Tyler Nickel. A lot of Tyler Nickel's threes had to have come from Tyler Tanner just taking care of the ball, weathering the initial storm, the swarm of swiping hands inside in the lane, and then getting able to kick that ball out to Nickel. A lot of that was Tyler Tanner just being composed for a freshman. For A&M, I think the third scorer is what they don't have. So why does Wilcher not play? Probably defense.
Oh, they have him. They just don't play him.
Well, probably because of defense, probably. He wasn't really, he was a six man at Nebraska pretty much his whole career too. But however, Obaseki last year, the difference between this team and last year's team, Obaseki last year at this point started putting up about 20 points a game and was shooting 50% from three. Obaseki's last 3 games combined, he's 0 of 10 without a single assist, no blocks, no steals. He's played 10 minutes in the past 2 games, when last year he was like their leading scorer at this point in the season. So that's a huge difference. They don't have that extra guard scorer, and I don't know why they don't just dump it down to Pharrel Payne every single play. Every single offensive position, just dump it down to Pharrel Payne. He's either going to get fouled or something better is going to happen than what the offense is running right now. So
I agree.
All right. So I'm going to try. We got a lot to still get to, and we're going on an hour here. So we need to, I knew this would be a bigger stream because this was a very loaded Wednesday night slate. All right. I'm going to try to catch up on some super chats here. Rob, $5 super chat. Every team saying they're must win against Kentucky. Rob sending out the message to everyone else. Shout out to Steve, loving the show from Kentucky. We appreciate you, Steve, for tuning in. Big Gator EJ, $4.99 on the super chat. We eventually need Southeastern 16's best SEC cities power rankings.
Oh boy,
he's going to start with Nashville at 1 and Austin at 2. So we might do that, Big Gator EJ. We'll put that together. I'm sure the number 16 team, all the fans who watch from the 16 that we have in the ranking, they'll be coming back. Come on, Big Gator EJ. We can't do that. We can't put somebody at 16. You guys can do that in the chat, which I know you will. All right, let's continue on here. Let me pull up some other stuff here. Back to the Georgia moving screen real quick from Tuesday. The Georgia go-ahead three-pointer with 40 seconds. Not a moving screen 100 times out of 100. Well, Zach, unfortunately, 99 out of 100. So any additional thoughts on the moving screen?
I'm never going to call that in that game, in that time.
All right. Let me continue on here. Good idea here. Just do a top 10 on the city rankings. That way we don't get to 16 and have someone feeling like they're last. So I see some 16 votes coming in the chat. Justin asks, is Mark Byington the SEC Coach of the Year? Man, you think about it, right? In any other year he would be, but it's not going to happen this year.
Okay, that leads me to a question I've been dying to ask you, Blake.
Come on.
Typical year, how many guys could be coaches of the year any other year?
Well, in the league? We know it couldn't be Dennis Gates, Chris, and since you completely dismissed the idea that Dennis Gates could win Coach of the Year about a week or two ago. I would say, it would be Bruce Pearl. It'd be Dennis Gates. I think you put Todd Golden in there. I don't think we should sit here and discount like that. Nate Oates has done a pretty good job with a 23-5 team. Mark Pope would be in there. Mark Byington would be in there. I think that's about it.
Rick Barnes. Nobody talks about it. They're 23-5 and lost.
He wouldn't be in there.
Well,
not that I say he's done a bad job. I'm just telling you he would not be ahead of those other guys.
Yeah,
how?
The Coach of the Year is a weird award.
Yeah.
I'm saying in a typical year, like guys that would be on your list.
Well, sure, typical year maybe, but Yeah,
No, I get it. Rick Barnes is not getting Coach of the Year. I'm not arguing that, but it's just it points out how good the league is and how good a job a lot of guys have done.
It's going to be tough because, like I said, I think if Auburn finishes the season, and let's say even if they lose another game, are we going to sit here and act like there's a huge difference between Auburn going maybe 17-1 and 16-2?
Oh, he's the guy.
In historically the toughest year ever. Come on. Like, let's not act like, oh, man, if Auburn drops a game in the final three, well, there goes the Coach of the Year for Bruce Pearl. They're going to finish, 27-3 or something? Like, I mean, now, hey, if they lose their final three games or something like that, okay. But he's going to have a vote, right? Like, there's going to be people vote for him. Now, I will also say that I think Dennis Gates is the obvious other choice, just because, I mean, again, I know we can talk about, well, he was the coach last year and all that. This isn't a last year vote. This is what have they done this year, and kind of what the team has done is a remarkable feat. So, yeah, I think he's absolutely going to be there. And we say, look, we'll give our votes. The SEC Coach of the Year tends to go to the guy who turns around a program.
Yep.
But this year, it may be different because the league is so good, and if Auburn were to just steamroll the rest of the way here, then, I mean, come on. Like, we can't act like Bruce Pearl's probably not the choice. But it's tough.
What usually happens with coach, it's like comeback player of the year in baseball or whatever. That's usually who gets it.
Yeah. So,
if you look at who has outperformed their preseason expectation the most, though, like Auburn, this is not taking anything away. I'm just trying to make a little point here for Vandy. Auburn, third in the preseason KenPom rankings. Before a game was played, Auburn was ranked third. Right now, they're second. For Missouri, their preseason ranking was 52nd. And right now, they're 11. So that's a huge outperformance of what the preseason projection was. And then Vanderbilt was 95th in KenPom before a game was played. Right now, they're 39th. So if you want to just look at throw nominations in there for outperforming preseason expectations, I could listen to that argument.
Yep. A lot of candidates, a lot of good coaching jobs this year. It's just when you have a year like this, it's like you're going to get an answer right somewhere. Like you're going to be able to make a strong argument for whoever the winner is. So, yeah.
Big Gator EJ's wondering what Florida was. Florida was 26th before a game was played. Right now they're 4th. So, yeah, shouldn't have left them out of that. My bad.
Yeah. Okay, let me get some ad reads in real quick, and then we're going to continue on because I want to pull up the SEC tournament bracket. We're going to talk about Vanderbilt one more time in terms of their potential path in. Again, we knew this would be a longer show, but I've never heard you guys complain about longer shows. But also, speaking of brackets, our friends at BracketBids are going to allow you to enter into that free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league with your friends, family, or coworkers. We're getting close. March is near. 2 days away from March. Ooh. You should be signing up now at BracketBids to get ready for the action. Everyone starts with those same bidding dollars. You have to outwit and outbid your league mates to secure the teams you think will go the distance. Choose from the multiple scoring models, including the upset bonuses to reward the bold picks. Track your teams with live in-game scoring. Watch those standings shift in real time. Further your team's advance, the higher you climb in the standings. For league play, use that promo code SE16 for 40% off. SE16, 40% off. Download the BracketBids app today or visit them at bracketbids.com. If you're saying, you know what, I don't want to do BracketBids right now. Well, shame on you, first of all. Second of all, you better be doing something else really nice with your time.
Efficient.
And I can't think of anything better than moving because, man, what a fun time it is moving. Moving is always such a pleasant experience. I've never heard anyone say, man, I hate moving. Unless they don't use our friends at Sanders Moving. Because, as we know, they're formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving and formerly known as Sanders Logistics. The leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers are focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Logistics has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. All right.
Did you catch that, Chris?
I did catch it. Did I miss one?
Oh, did he miss one?
I don't know. Now he's messing with my head.
Go to review.
Flustered.
Monitor
flustered.
review.
Flustered. All right. Someone asked, Big Baller Brett may be the one to ask, when are we doing the award show? I think we always do that right before the SEC tournament. I think that's Sunday night usually. Before the SEC tournament, we do a special award show. I believe that'll be our plan this year. We'll let you know on that. Okay. Big Baller Brett also said, boy, it's rough to think about. Only 4 or 5 guaranteed games left for all of our respective teams. Oh, man. What are we going to do? What are we going to do after that?
I know.
Oh, well, Chris, we don't care about the baseball
Max Barr,
here.
I don't know about him, but I know what I'll
Me and Max Barr are going to be basketball, wall-to-wall, 365. Are you kidding me? Max and I are going to be tracking down every recruit out there, which not as many anymore because everybody's transferring. It's just transfers, not really recruits anymore. We're going to be doing so many wild things in the offseason. So,
the first 2 months of the offseason, this is exaggerating. It's not busier than the regular season, but the first 2 months of the basketball offseason is just chaos with the coach. Well, especially last year with the coaching changes, with the teams literally building an entire roster from zero.
Yeah.
And we have to cover every edition.
We will probably be doing what we usually do. We do a video on pretty much every single transfer. So if you just think about that, we're talking hundreds of transfers most likely in or out of the SEC. So Max and I will have plenty to do in the offseason after games are played. Or as Brian says, I could just take up bowling. Either one. Both sound good, like good ideas. All right, let's continue on here. A couple things. Hey, by the way, we talk about the Southeastern 16 Kiss of Death. There does not seem to be much of a curse when we do pick the Hogs these days. So, something to think about. Something to think about there with the Hogs. Max, Trey wants a quick thought on what do we think the spread's going to be. We're not going to make our picks just yet, Trey. We're going to save that for the good stuff. That'll be up tomorrow morning for that one. As usual, we will have predictions going up today for the 3 wildest games ever. Although you could really throw Missouri and Vandy in there too now. Like we got this Saturday is just going to be incredible. We're going to have predictions for Auburn, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida A&M, Missouri, Vanderbilt, and everybody else that plays on Saturday. What's the spread going to be, Max? In Nashville.
It's going to open up Missouri -3.5. However, money's going to push it down to -2.5. Yep.
Yeah.
That's this is I'm painting the picture for you. It's going to close less than a possession. 2 or 1.
By the way, Leanne's always trying to stir the pot with us here. We just need to pick Arkansas to lose the rest of the way out. Since our winning ways with Arkansas are doing so well. Yeah, always up to something. All right. Okay, now Zach wants to know, can we predict the top 4 seeds of the SEC tournament? Well, Zach, I'm glad you asked, because we do need to give you the updated SEC tournament bracket as it stands right now. So let me pull this up and show you guys where things stand on the bracket. It is very interesting. A couple big moves were made after the Wednesday night games. So let's pull it up here. All right. So we did have movement with Alabama, of course, moving to 2 now. Florida's the 3 after the Gators' loss at Georgia. We also had Missouri swapping places with Texas A&M after A&M's loss. So Missouri's now up to the 5. Everything else stayed the same except for Georgia and Texas swapping seeding spots. They would still play each other. It was not going to matter either way. They were going to be playing each other in that 12-13. So that's your setup right now in terms of the SEC tournament bracket.
Oh, you know what I'm spotting? I'm going to see if you guys spot it too.
Did I misspell a word?
No.
No, thank God.
Texas A&M in the late game on Thursday.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh,
How
no.
did you miss that, Blake Lovell?
Oh, no.
Come on, that's your job.
There is no way I'm staying for that game. If it's Texas A&M and Arkansas to finish the night, that game will go into – they'll be serving breakfast before that game
Sign
ends.
me up. Sign me up.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine that being the late game? Oh, my. But I think, honestly, I'd rather have them in the late game than I would the early games.
No,
So-
I'd rather have them in the game 2 slot where you got the buffer between the
No,
morning
because
and
then
the-
you don't get a
Oh,
buffer. There is no buffer if you do that.
we need a buffer. Well,
There wouldn't
they
be,
have a
though.
point there.
There would be no buffer. So,
Yeah, but there'd be sleep afterwards.
well,
I'll take
I
my
don't
sleep
know.
to my buffer, sir.
I don't know.
Sleep in May.
Sleep in May. By the way, shout out to our guy Flying Blind. Late to this one. Up for a while
Hey.
after the Texas win. Go Hogs. The original Flying Blind has
Yep.
checked in at Southeastern 16. All right, you know what I'm going to do, Max. Let's do it.
Yep.
Here we go. Mississippi State, South Carolina. Here we go.
Mississippi State.
State.
Mississippi State. Georgia, Texas.
Georgia.
Opinions changing
Texas.
a little bit now. Oh, Chris
Yeah.
will have Texas go into the semifinals again or something.
never know.
Changing my pick. I'm going Texas this time. Vanderbilt, LSU.
Vandy.
Vandy.
Vanderbilt. Arkansas, Oklahoma.
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Woo Pig. Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Kentucky.
Cats.
If you measure the distance between our answers, they change now based on us seeing the midweek games. Sometimes we waited on the last ones. Now we're like, you know what? Kentucky. Missouri versus Georgia or Texas.
MIZ.
Give me the desperation upset.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna.
You are still picking Texas again.
I don't know why. It's not planned.
You just
Longhorns
spent we just spent an entire segment talking about how we cannot trust Texas and that it may.
Buddy,
you know,
Trey
who knows
Johnson
gonna-
almost took Arkansas
Aye.
down in its building 1-on-5.
All right. You just want the UT matchup again, where you can say UT and not have to pick a winner. All right, I'm picking Missouri. Ole Miss versus, and I know Texas already beat Missouri, but I don't care. Ole Miss versus Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Vandy.
Yeah, give me the Commodores. Texas A&M versus Arkansas.
Oh man. If they don't have, see, here's where ado comes into play. Give me A&M.
I gotta get some trust back in A&M. Give me Arkansas.
Okay.
Arkansas.
Nice.
Auburn, Kentucky.
Oh, could you imagine the crowd for that one? Oh my god.
Ask me after Saturday who I'm picking in this one.
Oh man. Oh man. Someone else pick before I do.
Auburn.
Give me the Cats.
Oh,
There you go. Win over the chat, Max Barr. Never a bad idea. Tennessee versus either Missouri or Texas.
MIZ.
Vols.
Give me Missouri. Ole Miss, or no, wait, Alabama versus Vanderbilt.
Oh, fun game. Alabama.
Yeah, that's where it gets ugly. That's Vandy on tired legs playing Alabama. Give me Bama.
Alabama. Give me, or wait, yeah, Alabama. Florida versus either A&M or Arkansas.
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Who do we have here? Auburn versus Tennessee or Missouri or Kentucky. Okay, hold on. Hold on. We got Kentucky versus Missouri. We've got Auburn versus Missouri, and we've got Auburn versus Tennessee. My goodness, just pick whoever you're winning from your matchup. Jeez.
MIZ.
Wow.
Tennessee.
Auburn. This will make the championship very, very easy. Jeez. All right. I don't even know where we're at. Is it Florida, Auburn on the bottom?
No, wait. Let's see.
Florida, Alabama.
Florida, Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Florida, Alabama.
Ooh.
Who's on first?
Florida, Alabama. Oh, man.
Alabama. I'm not waiting for you, sir.
Alabama.
All right. Well, if all you're going to do that, and give me Florida.
Okay. I have no idea who's in the championship. So I've got Auburn versus Alabama. I don't know what you two schmucks have, but pick your winner of the championship game.
Bama.
Chris has got Alabama winning it. I've got Missouri versus Florida. Missouri wins it.
Nice, Max. You played the Kentucky crowd and the Missouri crowd. You're learning well.
Levels to this game. There's levels to this game.
Auburn versus Alabama. I don't win either way here. So guess what? I'm going to keep the trend going, and I'm going to pick Auburn.
COVID hits the building. They never play the game.
Because last time I picked Florida, and look what I did to Florida last time I picked them. So there you go. All right, another fun SEC tournament gut bracket. Final question as we wrap up here. Vanderbilt, you would have thought Big Baller Brett has unsubscribed yet again. It's funny.
Brett,
Matt
on, man.
and Big Baller Brett
back there.
have unsubscribed more than any two people I ever have seen, and yet they are still members of the It Just Means More tier here at Southeastern 16. You can be too by signing up. $3.99. It lures you in. Donovan's unsubscribed too. We're losing all the regulars here.
Yep.
So, Donovan, I picked you to win. What are you talking about? All right. Vanderbilt. Last night I tweeted out after the game. I said, Vanderbilt is back in the NCAA tournament. You would have thought that I cursed people's entire way of life by saying that Vanderbilt
This man's running
was
on
making
fumes,
it back
Max.
to the tournament. I mean, some of the responses, I was just like, whoa, hold on a second, everyone. I get it. Like, from you don't want to, if there's anybody that knows, the superstition that I work with here on the picks, right? But I get it. You don't want to say they're in, but I am telling you right now that Vanderbilt is going to make the NCAA tournament.
Do you want to guess what their Torvik chance is right now?
Give me what Bart T's got.
Bart T, our guy. I would love to have Bart on, by the way, and just tell him that we talk about him like every show. Chris, any guesses on Vanderbilt's percentage chance to make it?
88.
Oh, you doubter. You're a doubter.
Yeah. What are you talking about? 88. Come on.
97.7.
Okay. Wow.
Listen.
They're in.
They're in. I realize that they still have 4 games to go. And I realize if they lose all those games, it's not going to be a fun Selection Sunday. But I still think, even if that happened, in the doomsday scenario, which I know Vanderbilt fans, they have every right to think of the doomsday scenario. They've been snubbed in the tournament in 2000. They've seen how this plays out sometimes. But it's not just what you think could happen if you lose games. The other teams around you have to somehow jump you. And I am telling you right now, I do not see the majority of those teams that are around them, I do not see enough in front of them to be able to jump Vanderbilt, even in that scenario. Now, they can't come out and lose by 20 every game the rest of the way, right? I don't see it. And so I realize the season's not over, but I think that was what they needed. We said it all year, thought it would need to be a 7. They've got their 7th conference win, but it's not just that. They got a road win against a top 15 team in the net and a top 15 team in the country. So that was what they were lacking. I think it was Lucas Harkins put out like the number, like their percentage wins and all that. It's ridiculous when you compare them to all these other teams we talked about. Keep in mind, too, Wake Forest lost last night. Bad loss to Virginia.
Yeah.
You know, other teams. Indiana beat Penn State. Good for them. They didn't beat Texas A&M on the road. They beat Penn State. So Vanderbilt, to me, has jumped up 8-9 pretty good. Even if they lose to Missouri on Saturday, they're still in the 8-9 game. And so I think they're in.
What would the nightmare scenario look like for Vanderbilt and Arkansas and whoever else ends up on the bubble? I mean, I guess it would be like UC San Diego's what, Big West, right?
Are you trying to tell me that UC San Diego's not going to make the tournament?
No. Here's what I'm saying. Like, what if they don't get the automatic bid, and then and then UC San Diego gets the auto, and somebody else from the conference gets it? Repeat that with like Drake. Let's say Drake does not win the conference tournament. I'm just like, how many times does that have to happen to be a concern?
It has to happen to be a concern for Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia.
No. I don't mean in the SEC. We know like who we can identify the teams that would be on trial. I'm just saying like how much chaos do you have to have elsewhere, and where does it need to happen for that 3% to be like something we're talking about on Selection Sunday?
That's my point. I don't think this applies to Vanderbilt anymore. Right. I think it applies to the other bubble teams in the SEC, because I think they just moved themselves significantly ahead of the other bubble teams. How could they not, right?
Well, look, I think you're right, but we deal like how many times have we seen stuff that's just completely improbable happen within games this year? Teams blowing 17-point leads with 6 minutes left. I'm just saying.
But if they do, that's my point is this is now probably a metric thing.
Yeah.
Unless they're losing by double digits every game the rest of the way, does a home loss to Missouri hurt them? No. Does a home loss to Arkansas hurt them? No. Who else is on their schedule? At Georgia? Does that hurt them? No, it really doesn't. Yeah. Look how much the loss to South Carolina hurt Texas. They moved down like 2 spots.
And for the record, my concern is not that. It is teams doing extraordinary things in other places that aren't in today. That is where I start my counter.
All right, so I'm just going to pull this up.
Because I agree with you on what you said.
I'm just going to pull this up for a visual effect real quick, and then we're hopping off. Now, this is just one
could be the Big East. The Big East could screw a team out.
Here's the way I look at it. But here's the way I look at it, okay? There are 16 teams sitting right here. 16. Guess who's not sitting right there?
I know, yeah.
Before the win against Texas A&M. Did any of those 16 teams do anything last night that were going to significantly impact or move them ahead of a Vanderbilt who was already ahead of them? And remember, I keep bringing up the rest of the way.
But no.
Even if you make a run in the ACC tournament, guess how many quality wins you're going to rack up?
Yeah. It's about getting the auto bid in that spot from a team that wasn't on the bubble or that was on the outside of the bubble looking in. Like, to me, the ACC tournament, you're watching Wake. You're watching what you don't want to see is Wake or SMU hit a heater to end the regular season, build enough wins, and then whoever's lagging the field in that discussion win the whole thing with SMU and Wake making a run.
Which we're talking.
Look, I know we're talking improbability. I'm just trying to, like, get people, like, okay, what are we watching to know with – once we get there, okay, you're in with certainty, or okay, we were wrong. This crazy thing happened, and okay, and if so, what would that crazy thing look like?
It'll look like someone not in the top 4 of the Big East winning the Big East tournament. So St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, or UConn, someone outside of that group stealing a bid. It'll look like Boise State continuing to win, big win last night, and then a good analytical win, kind of beating down on Utah State. So a Mountain West team stealing a bid. Those two jump out right away. A Big East bid stealer, a Mountain West bid stealer. I'm talking winning their tournament, not just racking up a win or two in the conference tournament and trying to boost the resume. Getting the auto bid, Big East and Mountain West. Those will steal too.
For the record, I think you're right. I just want to and I'll do my homework on it the next couple of days and get to know it for myself. I'm just not there yet with baseball. But I mean, when people are saying you're a 97% chance to get here's the other thing for Vandy. Hey, go beat Missouri, go beat Georgia, go beat Arkansas. Get yourself a 6, a 7. That's on the table for them too.
That's my thing is I know we like to play doomsday, but like Am I supposed to sit here and feel like the team that just beat Texas A&M on the road is going to lose their last 4 games by like 10 or plus? It's not going to happen. So unless multiple entries, as knock on wood, Vanderbilt fans, but like that's it. That's all I'm saying. So,
well, and the other variable, and you tell me if I'm wrong. People are making assumptions about conference tournaments, meaning things are not things, and they have not meant anything unless you win it the last few years. But that doesn't mean the committee couldn't say, hey, we screwed the pooch on that. We should have been given teams that got to the semis and picked up a couple of wins. We should have been giving them more credit. That was a blind spot we have. We don't know that they're not going to correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We're out of here. We got predictions.
Out of here.
We got baseball coming too, 10:30.
Shout out to Chuck. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
New member. Just means more.
We got baseball predictions coming. Boy, we've got a weekend in SEC baseball, guys. We got a lot of teams playing in classics. We got Florida hosting Miami. Pre-conference baseball in the SEC, not usually that interesting this time of year. You got a lot of powerhouses playing dogs. That changes this weekend. We're going to talk about that at 10:30 Central. We'll give some predictions on the weekend, and we'll even talk about maybe a couple of games from yesterday if we got time. So subscribe, tune in for that. For Max Barr, Blake Lovell, thank you for watching. God bless you all. You've been watching SEC basketball content here at Southeastern 16.